Hey everyone, welcome. Get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's Reddit stories. Imagine finally getting to your dream country, and then spending your days running luxury shopping errands for people who aren't even there. Do you just suck it up for family, or draw a line in the middle of this once-in-a-lifetime trip? Am I the asshole for calling out my wife after our dream Japan trip turned into a personal shopping service for her family? Japan has been my dream destination for as long as I, a 36-year-old guy, can remember. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z, and over time I got into a lot of other anime too. I always thought of Japan as this country that's basically living in 2040 while the rest of us are lagging behind. Right now, I'm actually on that dream trip. I'm here with my wife, who's 35, and 3 of her friends. Her closest friend absolutely adores her and doesn't question how the itinerary has been playing out. The other 2 people are also nice enough that they're not calling anything out either, at least from what I've seen. So here's where things started going sideways. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who are both very well off, wanted a bunch of stuff from Japan. Whether my wife offered or kind of took it on herself, I honestly don't know. My wife's love language with her family is definitely acts of service, so going out of her way to get stuff for them is pretty normal and usually just flies. But this time, we're on a trip with a bunch of friends, and I just spent the entire day dealing with this. We had to get a turn card to visit this Onitsuka store in Ginza for my brother-in-law, and then we planned the rest of the day for all of us around this place so we could pick up the shoe. It's not even that complicated of a custom job. They sew in 4 letters on each shoe. Being from India, it honestly seems like something any basic tailor could do for us back home. We left around 10 in the morning, and now it's 7:31 p.m., and I'm literally sitting in the store waiting for the thing. With my sister-in-law, she wanted a bag from a luxury brand, and since Japan is great for secondhand high-quality stuff, we've been visiting countless stores from the day we landed just to finally pick one with the grade she was looking for. That meant going to different stores, calling her, showing her the bags on video call, and then waiting for her yay or nay. They're well-to-do, so of course they'll pay us back for the items we sourced. But still, we had to spend the entire day around this area. And at one point, I finally asked the others to just go back to the hotel and then head to an area with anime and gaming. By the time my wife and I were finally free, the area I wanted to go to had already closed. At that point, I told the others who had reached the hotel to come meet us at a tower. After we picked up the shoe, I told my wife that I'm going to tell her family that this doesn't fly. I said I don't give a shit what they think when I say it, and that I'm 100% going to tell them. She immediately flipped it on me, saying how fucking dare I call her family shit, which I didn't, and that this is her family. She cares deeply about them, and I have no right to say this to them. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole? Or should I just confront them? Edits. 1. Yes, the itinerary was established, but it kept changing on the fly every time we saw a secondhand store or an Onitsuka store. So priorities were changing way too quickly for my comfort. The trip is 10 days long. 2. It's 2 guys and 3 girls. Only 2 of the girls are going full steam on the shopping. One of them is mostly window shopping. 3. We're Indian, and my wife isn't super independent. And culturally, it would get a lot of backlash from the family if I just left her to go by myself. 4. This is my second time in Tokyo. I'd previously come for work when I was a very broke young adult, so I did all the sights on foot across the city, and the company per diem helped me try out a lot of the food before. There are food spots in the itinerary that we're trying to hit, but not all of them work out because of the constant pull from the BIL and SIL. 5. Yes, we have hit cultural spots, just not museums yet, since none of the others are interested. I've been sticking around for the common good of the group, trying to steer things toward tourism. I'll add more edits for the questions I see. Final update. 1. Thank you to the folks who reached out and gave suggestions of places I could head to on my own to make my trip more fulfilling. 2. For the people attacking me for mentioning anime and Japan being in 2040 while I'm closer to 40, I don't know what to say. We all have our passions. Yes, there were more reasons than anime for Japan: the food, Sakura season, and the war that grounded most flights heading west from India. And it doesn't matter what your age is. If you like something, go for it. 3. Today, my wife wanted to head to a cafe, but I broke off and went to Akihabara with the other dude. We went through watch shops, arcades, and bonded over gaming and anime. My wife was pissed for an hour or two, but she came around once she joined up with us and saw that the Electric City is actually pretty cool. 4. Addressing this separately, why did I say 2040? Because I'm from India and we're still in a pretty terrible state. So seeing such a connected, technologically forward country is awesome. Things like maglev trains are probably still 50 or more years away for us. 5. I understand that this is a pretty common scenario that plays out on trips, with a lot of people sharing their experiences. And yes, I could have handled it better. But when the trip started to revolve around my in-laws' needs instead of us actually being tourists, that's when I snapped. I intend to set clear boundaries with the in-laws in the future. Asking them to order stuff to our hotel only for pickup, and not having us run around the country for them. The top commenters mostly focused on one thing. OP, you're kind of doing this to yourself. A lot of people said that instead of sitting in a department store all day building resentment, he could simply say, "Have fun shopping, I'm going to Akihabara," or wherever he wants to go. In their view, he doesn't need to participate in the errands just because his wife chooses to. Several people asked for more information and were confused about how this even happened on a dream trip. They questioned why OP is only now reacting to the itinerary, and why he didn't plan his own must-see spots ahead of time. If this vacation meant so much to him, commenters wondered why he didn't insist on a schedule that included his interests from the start. Others pointed out that he's an adult with agency. His wife can't literally force him to trail behind her while she shops for her family. If she genuinely enjoys spending her time hunting for second-hand luxury goods and custom shoes, that's her choice. But he can choose differently. Commenters said this should have been a conversation before or at the very beginning of the trip. Agree on plans, split up when interests differ, and don't wait until you're already frustrated to blow up about it. Others pointed out that he's an adult with agency. His wife can't literally force him to trail behind her while she shops for her family. If she genuinely enjoys spending her time hunting for second-hand luxury goods and custom shoes, that's her choice. But he can choose differently. Commenters said this should have been a conversation before or at the very beginning of the trip. Agree on plans, split up when interests differ, and don't wait until you're already frustrated to blow up about it. Overall, the recurring theme in the comments was that there's missing communication here. People wanted to know who planned the trip, why OP didn't speak up sooner, and why he's aiming his anger at the in-laws instead of setting boundaries and just going to do the things he came to Japan to do. What do you think? Is OP justified in being upset that his dream trip turned into a shopping mission for his in-laws? Or should he have taken more control of his own vacation from the start? Let me know your verdict and what you would have done in his place down in the comments. A toddler, a $5 rec center class, and a grandma who secretly refuses to go. When the mom finds out her own mother has been lying about where she's taking the baby, she makes a huge childcare decision that blows up the whole family dynamic. Did she go way too far, or was this the only way to protect her kid? Am I the asshole for firing my mom from childcare over a $5 class? My husband and I have a 16-month-old daughter, Ellie. I just went back to work part-time, and my mom was watching Ellie 2 days a week. Ellie goes to this little toddler class through our rec center twice a week. It's a 2-hour class, and every class has free play. A circle time with a story and song and an art project. During free play, the kids have 4 different table stations they can go to, including an art table, a corner of the room with all cars, trucks, and trains, the house corner with a kitchen and baby dolls, the dramatic play area that changes every 2 weeks. I've seen it set up as a grocery store, a vet's office, and a pizza shop. The book area, the block area, and the patio. The patio has 2 water tables, 2 playhouses, a sandbox, tricycles, and little Tykes cars. Each class is only $5. Parents and caregivers are required to stay and supervise their kids. Ellie loves this class. She's obsessed with the chalkboards there and is starting to go up to other babies. She does taste test every foam block in the room and has eaten her fair share of crayons and finger paint, and she drenches herself in water, then rolls around in the sandbox and covers herself in paint. But it's nothing that can't be solved with a change of clothes and basically hosing her off. I love how good the class is for her development. She's starting to know the names of colors, and she can sit down and play with toys for longer stretches. My mom hated the toddler classes. She calls it chaos and insists that a walk around the block or a trip to the library is just as good, if not better, for Ellie's development and way less messy. I still insisted that she take Ellie, which she agreed to, and then she stopped taking her behind my back. I only noticed when I realized we hadn't gotten any art projects back in a while. Since she lied to me about where she's been going with my daughter and refused to take her to a class that I really believe is good for her, I fired my mom from babysitting and hired a college student to stay with Ellie while I'm working. Now my mom is upset that I'm limiting her access to her granddaughter and leaving Ellie with a stranger, which is the one thing she was trying to prevent by babysitting for me in the first place. Now I want to know if I was the asshole for firing my mom and not having Ellie see her nearly as much over a $5 class. The top commenters are pretty united on one main point. The real problem here isn't the paint, the water tables, or even the $5 class itself. It's the lying. One commenter, who's a nanny and works with kids this age, says they see this a lot with grandparents in that boomer-ish age range. Modern best practices for kids often look messy and chaotic. Water, paint, sand, sensory play everywhere. And a lot of grandparents just aren't comfortable with that because it's not how they raise their own kids. So grandma not loving the class or the mess isn't shocking. What is upsetting to them is that mom agreed to take Ellie, then secretly stopped and lied about it. The commenter points out that missing the class for a while isn't the end of the world, but lying like that damages trust in a way that might never fully be repaired. Another top comment agrees that getting messy is normal and even good for kids, but also says it's not inherently unreasonable for a caregiver to dislike dealing with a soaking wet, paint-covered toddler. The line is crossed when grandma lies for weeks about where the child is and what they're doing. That commenter says, when you leave your child with someone, you need to be able to fully trust them. If she'll lie about this, it makes you wonder what else she'd be willing to lie about. From their perspective, that makes the decision to fire her understandable. A third highly upvoted comment is very blunt. To them, the content of the class doesn't matter at all. Whether the class was amazing or terrible is irrelevant. The issue is that grandma has shown she'll go behind the parents' backs and lie when she disagrees with their parenting choices. That, in their words, is a firing offense by itself. They say they wouldn't leave the child alone with grandma again until she clearly understands why what she did was wrong and can prove she won't repeat it, or until the child is old enough to speak up for herself. What do you think here? Is this mom overreacting by replacing her own mother with a college babysitter over one class? Or is lying about where your grandchild is such a big breach of trust that it justifies firing grandma from childcare? Let me know your verdict in the comments. Who's the real asshole in this story, if anyone? A bride plans her dream wedding. Her best friend grows out her hair for 2 years to match the vision, and everything seems perfect. Until one Instagram post turns it all into drama. People start calling the bride a bridezilla. And now the maid of honor is wondering if she accidentally blew up their friendship. Am I the asshole for buzzing off the hair I grew out to be my friend's maid of honor while she was on her honeymoon? I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I like having short hair. I've always had short hair. So my friend, she's 23, got engaged, and we were looking at hairstyles for her wedding. She had this board of ideas. She didn't call it a vision board, but that's basically what it was. Totally full of stuff she'd clearly been collecting for months, maybe even years. All the hairstyles on it were long and pretty similar, and then there were just a few short ones like mine that she'd obviously thrown in at the last minute. I could tell from the way she talked about it that she really wasn't that into the short hairstyles, even though she was trying to sound like she was. Even her husband has hair past his shoulders. So I told her I'd grow mine out and get extensions. I was kind of curious how it would look long anyway, because I first cut it short when I was 9. For me, it was always meant to be temporary. But the wedding kept getting pushed back, 2 years. So my hair just kept growing. It got down to about my armpit. While it was long, I actually had fun with it. I learned how to do braids and more intricate styles. Anyway, the wedding finally happened at the end of February. I had the same beautiful updo as the other bridesmaids, and I decided the experiment was great, but I was ready to go back to my comfort zone. So I buzzed it all off. I would have had 0 regrets if that had just been the end of it. I posted a picture on Instagram of my new hair and captioned it, "Wedding over. Hedgehog's back." A few people messaged me asking if my long hair was for the wedding. I thought they were just curious, not concerned, and I told them, yeah, my friend likes long hair. I saw her the next week, and she was furious with me for telling people she was a controlling bridezilla over something that was actually my idea. She had no idea I was keeping my hair long for her, and thought I had genuinely just liked having it long. I tried to clear it up with people, but they don't believe me. They think she pressured me into saying that. It's a mess, and my friend isn't talking to me. Who's the asshole here? What do I do? The top commenter says the best thing OP can do now is make a clear, public post to set the record straight. Something like, "Hey everyone, just to clarify, my friend never asked me to grow out my hair. I chose to do it because I knew it would make her happy, and I was curious about long hair anyway. It was a fun experiment, but I missed my short hair and was excited to bring it back." They say that anyone who still insists the bride is a bridezilla after that probably doesn't really know either of them, and some people are just going to believe whatever they want, no matter what OP says. Another commenter points out that the title is pretty misleading. The friend isn't mad that OP cut her hair. She's mad that OP made her look like a controlling bridezilla. They say if OP's Instagram replies and caption are anything like how she framed the situation in the title, it's a lot easier to understand why the bride is angry. A third highly upvoted comment says OP is the one in the wrong here, specifically for making her friend look bad. They say it would have been totally fine if OP had answered the messages with something like, "Sort of, I was curious about long hair anyway and thought she might appreciate it." But the way OP phrased it made it sound like the bride required her to grow it out, which wasn't true. In their view, OP's wording unfairly painted her friend as controlling, and that's what crossed the line. What do you think? Did OP accidentally throw her friend under the bus? Or are people overreacting to a harmless comment about hair? If you were the bride, would you be this upset? And if you were OP, How would you fix this mess? Let me know your verdict in the comments. Who's the real asshole here? A fourth grader is failing math, even though she's suddenly getting the right answers. Her dad steps in, teaches her a different method, and her grades should go up. But instead, the teacher slaps her with a 50%. When the teacher refuses to budge, this dad decides to take it all the way to the principal's office. Am I the asshole for making a stink at school and forcing the teacher to change my kid's math grade? My kid's in fourth grade, and she's been struggling with math. It's been an ongoing issue. This whole year, she's had a hard time with multiplication and division specifically. It's been a constant problem, and it got even worse when they moved on to multiplying and dividing with multiple digits. We've tried the school's tutoring, but overall, she's just not getting it. She doesn't understand the method they're teaching. She gets it wrong like 80% of the time. It's not easier, and it's just more steps. For example, with multiplying, you break up the numbers, draw boxes, then multiply, and then add them all up. I decided to teach her the way I learned, and she actually understands it. Homework is 1,000,000 times easier now because she can finally solve the questions. The problem is, my daughter had a math test last week, and she came home upset. She got a 50%, even though she got most of the answers right. She missed 2 out of 25, so it should have been a 92%. I talked to the teacher, and it basically boiled down to this. She didn't use the method they showed in class. I pointed out that the test just said to show their work, and it didn't say they had to use a specific method. The teacher basically went, "Too bad," and said that if it happens again, it'll be a 0. I was fed up and went to the principal. I'll admit, I made it a big deal because I think it's ridiculous that she got penalized for getting the right answers using a different method. It's math. You can solve problems in a lot of different ways. They brought the teacher in. She was forced to change my daughter's score, and they said it won't happen again. She can find the right answer any way she wants to, as long as she shows her work. The teacher was not happy. My wife thinks I was being an ass and keeps bringing it up. She says the teacher has other things to deal with and that I went overboard. Did I? Top commenters are overwhelmingly on the dad's side here. One of the highest rated replies comes from an engineer who says they've done so much math and flat out calls the dad not the asshole. They point out that there are tons of valid ways to solve math problems, and it's completely normal for different people to click with different methods. Even as an adult, they still find some methods confusing and just don't use them. In their view, if the daughter is getting the correct answers with a method she understands, that's what matters. She knows how to multiply now, and that's the actual goal. They also add that the box method isn't even very good for longer multiplication. It usually gets dropped by middle school, and it's just one tool among many. For some kids it helps, for others it just makes things more confusing. Another top comment says the dad handled this exactly the right way. He tried to work within the teacher system first, saw his kid struggling, and then taught her a different way that finally made sense to her. The test instructions only said to show her work, which she did. When the teacher refused to budge, he escalated to the principal, and the principal agreed, which the commenter sees as validation. They also stress that forcing a kid to grind away at a method that clearly isn't working doesn't make them smarter. It just makes them feel incompetent and anxious about math and testing. In their eyes, teaching shouldn't be rigid like that, and the dad did what a good parent should do. He tried every reasonable approach, and when that failed, he found something that worked for his child. And finally, a math teacher who says they taught math for 18 years chimes in to say very bluntly that the dad did not go overboard. Coming from someone with nearly 2 decades of teaching experience, they clearly feel the teacher's grading approach was out of line. What do you think? Is this dad defending his kids' learning in a reasonable way? Or did he cross a line by going over the teacher's head and involving the principal? If you were the parent, the teacher, or even the principal in this situation, how would you have handled that test grade? Let me know your thoughts and your verdict in the comments below. Imagine planning this epic island camping trip. Ferries, kayaks, time off work, the whole thing. Only to have it keep getting ruined by the same totally preventable mistake. This time, the narrator decided to say something, even though her roommate had specifically asked her not to. Did she cross a line? Or was she just protecting everyone's trip? Am I the asshole for correcting my roomie about her meals when eating out? I love my roommate a lot. She's a wonderful person, and I honestly consider her family. We've lived together for a few years now, and we're both close to 30. My roommate has a digestive condition where even a little bit of dairy will absolutely wreck her. Like, she gets horrible stomach cramps and is basically out of commission. She also doesn't eat meat, but she does eat eggs and some fish. I love food and cooking, so it's been really easy for me to cook for both of us, and she's always super grateful. We go on a lot of camping trips together. We really love it. Several times now, on our way to a camping trip, we've stopped somewhere to grab food, and she's ended up doubled over with awful cramps by the time we get to the campsite. Then we've had to pack everything up and turn around. Because I cook a lot, I usually have a better idea of what's in most foods than she does. The first time we ate out together years ago, I mentioned to the waiter that something she ordered had dairy in it and said she couldn't have dairy. Afterward, she politely asked me not to do that again, so I didn't. Fast forward to last weekend. We went on this big kayak camping trip. We'd just gotten off a ferry and were having one last hot meal at a little restaurant before heading out, and she ordered something that came on brioche bread, which, unlike most breads, has a ton of butter in it. So I said, "Don't get brioche. It has a ton of butter." She shot me a dirty look and asked the waiter. The waiter had to go ask the chef, who confirmed that, yeah, it did have butter. So she got a substitution. She was pretty annoyed with me for correcting her about her meal in front of the waiter, especially since she'd already asked me not to do that. Here's the thing about this trip, though. We were going to camp overnight on Posey Island, this tiny island marine park off the coast of Friday Harbor, one of the San Juan Islands in the Puget Sound. The island only has 2 campsites, and we'd rented both for 2 nights, so we were going to have the whole island to ourselves. And one of the days was the lowest tide of the month, so we were going to get some amazing tide pooling in. There were 4 of us on this trip: her, me, another friend, and my girlfriend. By this point, we'd woken up at 2 in the morning, driven 5 hours, taken a 2-hour ferry that cost $70, and were about to paddle a few miles across the harbor in the early morning cold. We'd all taken time off work, which is hard for us. And the only reason we took such an early ferry was so we could paddle over when there were fewer boats in the harbor, because my roommate is afraid of kayaking near large boats, and honestly, none of us love it. So after doing all of that, I was not willing to turn around because she didn't want to be told she'd ordered something with dairy in it. And with how the ferries to the San Juan Islands work, we might have had to wait days to get on one without a reservation, and our reservation was for the day we were leaving. So am I the asshole for correcting her about her own dietary restrictions? Edit. I feel like I should point out that while trips have been cut short before because of dairy slip-ups, out of the 5 or so times it's happened, 2 or 3 weren't her fault because she had ordered vegan food. And we camp a lot. Like, a lot. Basically every weekend in the summer and many weekends in the spring and fall. This has happened on fewer than 1 out of 10 trips. Reddit's top verdict was strongly in favor of the narrator not being in the wrong. The most upvoted take said that the roommate can't refuse to properly manage her own health and then keep derailing everyone else's plans because of it. If she chooses not to be vigilant about dairy, she doesn't get to drag the whole group down with her. Another popular comment agreed the narrator wasn't at fault, but suggested a different approach going forward. Stop sharing the consequences. Right now, whenever the roommate eats dairy and gets sick, the narrator also turns around and goes home, missing out on trips and experiences. Commenters argued that the roommate is an adult and fully responsible for her own medical condition. If she doesn't want help spotting dairy, that's her choice. But then she should be the only one dealing with the fallout. If she wants to go home and hug the toilet, she can, while everyone else continues with their plans. A third highly upvoted comment pointed out that this situation would feel very different if the narrator didn't already know from experience that a dairy slip would probably ruin the entire trip. They suggested having a clear conversation. Explain why she spoke up this time. Agree not to do it again if it really bothers the roommate, but also set boundaries. Either the narrator stops planning trips with her if this keeps happening, or they stop canceling when the roommate gets sick and let her leave on her own. That commenter even said it almost feels intentional at this point, given the pattern. What do you think? Was the narrator out of line for speaking up about the brioche after being asked not to? Or is it fair to protect a big, expensive trip when you know what's probably going to happen? And how would you handle future trips with this roommate? Let me know your verdict and what you'd do differently in the comments.